Hello, welcome back to my channel. So, over this past weekend, I was able to have the opportunity to play Exoprimal, the closed beta. And thank you to Capcom for allowing me to stream it and record the footage that you are seeing here. So, now, what is my view on this game? So, let's just go down the list of things that, well, kind of were my job. So, the game I was testing out, figuring out if the game was running well, how was the network, how was the controls, how was, everything feeling. And I have to say, everything felt excellent. Everything up to maybe the PvP portion, and we'll get to that later on. But the game felt responsive. Every button I pressed came out. Every single thing I was doing felt intentional. There was no, oh, I messed up here or there, right? So everything felt responsive. That felt good. The other thing is that the network, I didn't see or feel anything that kind of dropped or laggy, which ironically was kind of awesome, honestly. I didn't feel anything that was kind of weird. Maybe if there was a PvP portion of it, but when it came to the PvE, which you're seeing right here on screen, I didn't really feel anything out of place. So that to me felt really good. The UI, the menu, nothing of it was confusing, but it felt a little Call of Duty-ish when you looked at it. But then again, I have no real. It wasn't really anything that was truly out of the ordinary. It just kind of felt like a multiplayer game, honestly. And this is a 5v5 game, so what you're seeing here, there's 5 teammates that you have, including yourself, and you're going up against another 5 members, right? Which is the enemy team. Now, the whole purpose of this is to complete objectives as fast as you can, right? That is kind of what the whole thing is, right? And we'll get into the specifics later on, but the UI system was pretty good. Although I did have one single problem. So in this game, there are things that you pick up, which are called data chips, and you get to pick them up and you place down barriers every now and then, right? Every single character or class in this game can pick them up. And I don't know if there's a maximum amount. I can only carry 2 at a time. It just felt like that. But um it was kind of hard to figure out some UI stuff in game because it was hard to keep track about, oh, this is on cooldown, this is not on cooldown. It was a little bit difficult to figure that out. But once you start understanding how the activation of your abilities started out, it kind of felt like Overwatch, where every character had abilities that you just kind of had on cooldown. So it wasn't anything new to me. The one thing I had though was there's things called dominators that you pick up and they replace your rig. This is something I wish had a little bit more of a highlight where you could see it completely on your screen and it starts blinking or something where it completely changes, because having a little slight change to just the rig, which by the way, you either press it a lot, which is your triangle slash Y button, or you don't really press it at all and it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I forgot I had this ability with me. So it is kind of a thing where it would be nice to have a little bit more of a indication that you have the Dominator with you. That way it doesn't just go kind of under the radar. So the objectives in this game range of just kind of a classic, somewhat um, kind of like an arcade style shoot 'em game where you have a whole swarm of enemies coming at you. Think of House of the Dead, where there's a whole bunch of zombies coming at you and you have to just kind of kill and clear the screen out. It's kind of like that, but you'll notice that there's this bar at the top corner of the game. That bar is an indication of how fast you are completing objectives, how many objectives there will be until the PvP portion, which is that blue red hexagon looking thing. I think it's a hexagon. Looks like one. But that is when the PvP kind of portion of the game starts. Now, during the objectives, right? The little diamond squares, you have certain boxes which, if you look very closely, has a number, and that number is the amount you have to kill for the objective to be done. Now, this kind of took me a while to understand because I didn't understand that, oh, you have to kill 1,000 raptors before you go to the next objective. That was something that kind of came with a little bit more experience, and I started looking out for it a little bit more later on. The first starting out, it was kind of hard to figure out what the objectives are. I mean, when you start understanding that a little bit more, it makes it easier to complete objectives, especially ones where there's a whole bunch of numerous amount of raptors coming in on screen. Which, by the way, the amount of raptors that come in and swarm is huge. It's about 100 on screen at a time. And interestingly enough, everything ran pretty well. It didn't really slow down at all. The game ran smoothly, honestly, all the way through the game. So that was nice. And I didn't have much to complain about at all. Now, the one thing I can complain about is that when there's a whole bunch of hordes coming in at you, you can lose yourself a bit, and that's a little crazy. But then again, it makes for mayhem, and it's really enjoyable. So let me kind of showcase what I mean about the objectives real quick. So right here we have a T-Rex, and you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of raptors coming in right behind this T-Rex. The objective, however, is to kill this T-Rex. And if you don't kill the T-Rex, you essentially don't complete the objective. Even though there's a whole bunch of raptors, the objective doesn't clear until the indicated number of enemies is slaughtered, which is something that is very hard to kind of see in the midst of battle. So maybe when they're doing that, it can like be a little bit more clear on what the objective is, because the Leviathan AI just kind of says something along the lines of just summoning Tyrannosaurus or whatever, and he just kind of says whatever, right? And then all of a sudden Raptors incoming, right? And you kind of get this feel where you start listening to the AI a lot, and he says way too much stuff for me to care sometimes, and it's very hard to kind of commentate over the gameplay because he talks every single minute of the game, and it's hard to just kind of figure out what you want to do sometimes because he's always talking about new objectives. He's always taunting you too, which is kind of interesting. And the game modes themselves are pretty straightforward for the most part. It goes PvE, and then after that, towards the end, is a PvP mode. And the PvE modes are all about killing a number of swarm of raptors, a number of special enemies, and then a number of big dinosaurs like a Tyrannosaurus or a Triceratops, and there's even an Ankylosaurus. So that's kind of cool. Now, the PvP portion of this game is lacking in my eyes. So the biggest problem I have with this game is when you're completing objectives faster than the enemy team, that can easily snowball into the PvP portion. And that kind of can seem underwhelming, especially because I found myself behind a lot more than, ahead. And that was mostly because figuring out the objectives, figuring out how to do the objectives was taking a lot. And it's fine, right? It's fine up until you start realizing that the opponent is about 40% higher in terms of just completion rate than you, and it's like, how am I supposed to get back from this? They're so far ahead. What am I supposed to do? And it's kind of annoying to just come back from that. It really is. So maybe the PvP portion, it can rein it down where the limit is like, oh, they're completing it fast, but let's kind of give them a slight handicap because the PvP portion isn't the strongest part of the game. Maybe if they have it to where, oh, they're in the PvP portion and you're still in the PvE portion of the game yourself, where the enemy team is moving gathering data keys or gathering energy cells or moving the payload, essentially, you could probably bring in Dominators. And let's talk a little bit about Dominators. Dominators in this game act as kind of like essentially a special enemy where you summon either a T-Rex or a Triceratops, and you get to control the dinosaur, by the way, and you get to control them, how they attack, how they move, right? And that's cool. That's really awesome. But I think what needs to kind of change is maybe the health pool, because while it's awesome, you get maybe one. I think you only get one Dominator in the game. And I think that should be one of the more useful resources, because a dinosaur at the end of the game is really hard to kind of counteract when you don't have your ults up or you don't have any kind of focus fire. And when you have focus fire, these dinosaurs go down really, really fast. The health pool of them either needs to be increased, or give more Dominators throughout the match, maybe to kind of like slow down the enemy team, especially if the enemy team is snowballing really hard. That could easily lead to a very easy win, and that's not fun to deal with. The Dominators, I think, could have a little bit of a tweak, because it's kind of interesting how they go into a standard attack. And something like the Triceratops has one attack, one special attack, and that's it. And while the Tyrannosaurus has a number of attacks and also a kind of an ultimate if you kind of get it up online, which I wasn't able to get anything really going on with the Triceratops because, again, the health pool is kind of limited and you die really fast if you're not careful. And it's kind of annoying, kind of trying to deal some damage, and the enemy team just focuses you down so quickly, it's hard to get around it. So maybe increasing the Dominator's health pool again could help so much with the PvP start portion of it. Or maybe if they don't increase the health, maybe increasing the amount of Dominators you get throughout the match, because while it's fun to get a Dominator and pilot them, it kind of ruins a little bit of the moment when while your teammates are awesome. It's kind of disheartening when you try to go for a Dominator and someone else gets it and you just can't do anything about it. So I think maybe increasing it with the same health pool could help. And, if the enemy team kills if they kill the Dominator fast enough, well, you get a Dominator for your team. So it kind of goes hand in hand, where it can help out a lot. So the PvP portion of this game is primarily a big focus of it, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. I didn't really have much fun with the PvP portion, but the PvE portion of the game I had a blast with. And I think everyone is going to love the PvE portion of the game, because that is one of the fun parts of the game, is just beating up dinos and not having a care in the world about it is really fun. So in that regard, I do have to say the amount of enemies that come at you is fun to really kind of dwindle it down. So let's talk a little bit about the abilities that everyone kind of has. So let's start off with the assault. So Deadeye is the main kind of Soldier 76 of this game. Overwatch people, if you know what I mean. So he's pretty easy to figure out. His ultimate is Overdrive, which allows you to, or his Overdrive ability is kind of his ultimate. He's allowed to basically throw out a whole bunch of a barrage, essentially. Think of Pharah's ultimate. It's kind of like that. And you get to move around and you get to do a whole bunch of damage. But it's, again, all the ultimates in this game kind of are slow at regenning or slow to recharge, however you charge it up. And it's not necessarily clear how you're supposed to get your ultimate, but it's really good, especially if it's a big dinosaur. It's really good for clearing out small enemies. It's a very versatile kind of ultimate. Now, his first ability is a grenade, and this is great for AoE. His grenade is huge. I mean, it just clears out a room full of raptors, and it's really good for just kind of clearing out swarms. Really good at good damage, right? His second ability is a dodge. So the dodge allows you to just kind of like, I guess it's a mobility move. And remember that everyone has a mobility move. But his is kind of weird because it's like a roll that doesn't really do much. I didn't find any kind of use for it. But, it is what it is. So, and that's about it for Deadeye. Deadeye is pretty straightforward. He doesn't have much. So let's go to Zephyr. Zephyr is a Tonfa wielding exosuit. This exosuit is interesting because it has a number of attacks that can reach pretty far, actually. There's one vertical kick he has. There's a shoulder tackle that he has that reaches really far. And overall, Zephyr is probably a Genji kind of main person. If I have to make the equivalent of Overwatch, he really is kind of like Genji of Overwatch. But he's not as fast as Genji. He doesn't have anything for defensive skills. He's really all about offense. And it's not bad. It's just that it might hurt him in the long run, because he gets hit far too easily, and he has no like invincible moves essentially. So it's kind of hard to say, oh, he's a good fit if you want to try him out as like a Genji main. But Zephyr really is fun when it comes to cleaving out opponents. And his overdrive ability allows him to essentially go into his abilities quicker. So he's able to utilize a lot more of his abilities far more because it reduces the cooldown by like 50% or something like that. So that's fun to use. And that's about it for Zephyr. Zephyr's not much of a exosuit that he's kind of he's fun, but he has a hard problem with killing enemies that fly. So that's one of his fatal flaws, I would say. Now, um, let's talk about the tank part. Roadblock. Now, Roadblock is essentially Reinhardt of this game, and I know I'm making a lot of comparisons from Overwatch to this, and that's because the PvP portion of this game is somewhat Overwatchy, where you want to play as a team, and the team game can be rather interesting if you play together. But Roadblock, like Reinhardt, has a shield, but unlike Reinhardt, he just kind of hits things with his hammer, or his fists, his hammer fist, as it's called in game. So, again, unlike Reinhardt, he isn't Reinhardt, but is Reinhardt. But he's pretty straightforward. He's the tank of the game. He's the basic tank of the game, I should say. And he has an ability called Taunt. Now, Taunt allows you to basically become the target of all enemy raptors and enemy swarms, essentially. And this is good because this takes away the heat off of your teammates. So being able to take on all of the raptors, and by the way, you have 900 health or something like that with Roadblock, you can easily take that damage. Trust me, I I had taunt up for like maybe a minute at a time, and I would always have my second taunt up by the time I had to utilize any kind of defensive maneuvers. And by that time, I mean, I had my witch doctor heal me up and I was good to go. So, really, he's able to tank almost everything in the game. With the exceptions aside, the normal enemies are, I mean, you could have 100 of them coming in at you at the same time. And if you have a good witch doctor, you're not dying. So, not only that, his second ability, which is the shield, blocks all the incoming damage, right? Now, there is a percentage of how much it has, like Reinhardt, and you could easily mitigate that damage. Now, I'm not too sure how fast it regenerates. I have had my shield broken a couple times, and when it does break, it's really hard to get that shield back fast. So maybe regenning that, especially with the amount of damage some enemies can do, it would be kind of nice to have that backup ASAP. So maybe shield management will be a big thing in later releases. But his other ability, after you use shield, you're able to essentially shield bash, and shield bash pushes any enemies at all. This could be the enemy exosuits, or it could be a big dinosaur like a Tyrannosaurus. It doesn't matter. It pushes them back. However, if you do it on a big dinosaur, you will lose your shield really fast. So that has to be one of those indicate or another shield management type of thing. So that has to do with Roadblock. Roadblock's ultimate ability is his Twister Cyclone. And this is probably the best AoE kind of attack in the game, where just swarms upon swarms of enemies can easily be trapped into this. And even enemy exosuits can be trapped into this. So you could easily wipe a lot of things away. I'm not too sure how much damage it does to an enemy player, but I do know I have been able to trap an enemy in the cyclone. So it does have its uses for PvP. Now, Let's go to the last exosuit, which is Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor is, I guess I'm going to have to say it, very much the mercy of the game. Witch Doctor is interesting because he's very basic in his kit. His whole kit is about supporting the players on your team. And the players on your team take damage, and you can essentially overshield them. And you'll notice throughout the game that your enemy or your team has green health. That green health is essentially overshield, and it gives you 100 extra health on top of the base health you have. So it does help with survival, and it's really good for other players to just kind of keep inside the green circle, right? And it's very, very Overwatch when it comes to just the healing. Not much to say on the damage, though. The damage that Witch Doctor does isn't that great. However, the Witch Doctor has a stun ability, which allows you to stun almost any big dino, and small dinos too, by the way. So if you have a Witch Doctor, allowing them to be not on the front, but close to the tank to make sure that they're alive, they can easily help the team out by keeping the big dino on the ground, because as soon as that stun goes up, that stun lasts for a good long time, and it can easily allow you to snowball a lot of things, especially if it's an enemy dino like a Dominator. You could stun the Dominator and then finish it off. So now the way the stun works is you have to do a certain amount, I think a certain amount of damage at a time. So not too sure how long it takes to stun. We'll figure that out far later on. But the other ability that Witch Doctor has is a jump. And the jump is weird because at first it looks like a mobility kind of tool. And it is, but it also has an extra jump. So you're able to double jump, and you're able to glide afterwards. Witch Doctor has the ability to glide, but the glide is not that great. It's just kind of a slowdown. So maybe if they speed up the speed of the glide, I think that could have far more of a use, because I did not see a big use about utilizing the double jump of this move, because it was not that great to have. So maybe in the future they increase the speed at which the double jump kind of allows you to go at, the gliding. So with the skill of Witch Doctor, Witch Doctor's ultimate, I believe, instantly gives everyone back full health in a certain radius. I'm not too sure because I wasn't able to completely see if the ability healed everyone, because I could only vouch for myself, and I was able to get back full health pretty easily. Maybe after I review the footage, I'll be able to figure out if what exactly happens with Witch Doctor. So obviously there's going to be more exosuits after launch, or we're going to probably see a little bit more. We're not too sure how the other closed betas are going to be. And the closed betas are going to be coming in about a couple weeks after this. So we got some time. But the other exosuits, I'll probably just showcase a little of them while I'm talking about some other things here. So some that kind of come to mind right now, Muramasa is a tank, which I thought it was interesting. looks like a longsword kind of samurai type of exosuit, and that already caught my eye as soon as I saw that. So Muramasa is going to be probably my go to exosuit. Another exosuit that I was kind of interested in, Krieger. I'm going into tank, I guess. Krieger was kind of cool. Let's talk a bit about some things that could help out with the game. Um, like I said before, some of the dominators really are. The health pool is a little too small in my eyes because they just die really quickly, a little too fast for my liking. Um, Maybe if they increase the health pool on that, that would be nice. The PvP portion of the game, there were two types. There was a data key kind of escorting, and then there was a you had to collect um, data chips or energy cartridges, whatever it was called. You had to collect those things around, and you could easily kill enemy players to increase their your supply essentially. So you were able to just kind of kill enemy players and then just have fun with doing that. So I'm not too sure how they're gonna balance out the enemy cartridge or the cartridge one. Enemy cartridge one was kind of interesting because it felt like tag more than I guess what it should have been. Because it's from the naked eye, it looks like a kind of like a Call of Duty Battlefield type of control game mode where you had specific objectives to go to and you would get your cartridges and then you would increase your cartridges. I didn't understand how killing an enemy player helped a lot. I did know that the killing an enemy player really helped out a lot, so that was something that I just kind of did. It was like kill first, ask questions later kind of thing. So I didn't really pay attention too much in this kind of mode. It was just kind of like have fun, kill things. So maybe down the line they could tweak that up a bit more. I'm not too sure how they would tweak it up. Maybe every single kill you get, the enemy drops, a specific amount of data chips, which would be interesting. So that way you could see exactly how much you're gaining and losing at the time. So who knows? That game mode was kind of lackluster in my eyes. I didn't really have fun playing it. I just had fun, killing things. So, but running around and collecting the chips wasn't as fun. The other one, the data key escort, that one was kind of standard. That was just a standard Overwatch kind of game mode. Felt like another game mode of Overwatch, awkwardly enough. So I didn't really have much to say about it. But the one game mode I had to talk about, and it's by far my favorite one, and it was the one that essentially, if you played it all the way through, all the way towards 8 hours, or 3 hours, I should say 8 hours. Hell no, that did not go on for that long. Was the Neo T-Rex fight. Now, the Neo T-Rex fight was a fight that encompassed both parties, and this was so much fun to do. And the Neo T-Rex is such a raid boss. It has enormous health, and it has so much damage that it's crazy to me to even think about how many more they could have. I mean, look at these attacks. I mean, just look at this attack. Look at it. He sucks you in and then he bites you. And then everyone just kind of dies. It's just crazy and awesome. It's just fun to look at. So, in in a another sense, this raid boss was by far the highlight of the game modes. I'm not gonna lie. I had so much fun playing this one. Beyond everything else, this one was by far the best Capcom did, and I really do hope there's more PvP slash PvE game modes like this, where it's like a raid boss, because this was fun. This was really fun. I didn't have the stress of worrying about the enemy team trying to, screw you over. It was just a stress of you teammates and getting out of the out of the boss's damage range. So that was one of those things that it was fun. It was really fun. I have nothing to complain about this at all. It was just really, really fun. So one thing that I had to mention, though, is that you do have a limit on respawns. You have 30 respawns for this whole gauntlet challenge that this AI kind of takes you to. But if you guys have, any kind of competency at all, I mean, by the time you get to the Neo T-Rex, you're easily holding on to maybe 25 to more respawns by the time you're doing any of this. So it's really fun. But with that said, I mean, this game overall I enjoyed it, but the problems with the PvP I think need to get addressed with the biggest thing they need to get addressed is the snowball effect. The snowball effect for a lot of the PvP portion of the game sucks, especially the escort. So, but with that being said, this game so far is looking really good. The amount of dinosaurs that come in on screen and actually not screwing up anything is actually not bad. So I have to commend Capcom and being able to make a working build that didn't have a malfunction at all during the testing. And I did play for 3 hours of this game, so yeah, I do have 3 hours of footage. So this game is really fun. I thought this game was really fun. I'm gonna have to kind of take off the AI though. The AI's he talks a little too much, so I really did enjoy this game a lot. So, with that being said, though, thank you for watching, listening, and if you want to check out some more Exoprimal stuff, well, there's going to be a couple more beta tests coming out, and the second one is going to be around late July, I believe. So, stick around for that. I'll see you later. If you enjoyed this, hey, leave a like, leave a comment, and peace. How fitting. We get MVP at the last one.